It's 11:30, and I think we should get started to keep this within the allotted time. So, welcome everyone. It is good to see all of you in here. The MF CASR lunch is digital today, so I'm happy that you're also able to join us online and not only in the library. So today, Gard Granerød, whom I guess most of you know well already as a professor of Old Testament / Hebrew Bible at MF, he will talk with us about this very curious occurrence of the word aglā, or I'll allow you to pronounce that later on, Gard, in Scandinavian medieval inscriptions and in Jewish mystical texts and inscriptions. So we are going to do as we always do. There will be like a 13 minutes presentation by Gard. And then we have like a 13 minutes time set aside or allotted for question and answers and comments and so on, discussion with Gard. And if you want to raise a question, please put your question in the chat or the Q&A function, or you can raise your hand and we'll see if we can like allow you to be part of like the conversation on the screen. So Q&A, question and answers, or raise your hand in order to interact with us. Gard, please take it away.
Yes, hello. First technical check. Can you now see my slide changing?
Yes, we can.
Wonderful, thank you. So this presentation takes me and perhaps you to the world of magic among Scandinavians in the High Middle Ages and among Jews in the Middle Ages and beyond. And the primary focus and delimitation is this enigmatic word, aglā. I will come back to that, obviously. What does it mean in Scandinavia? The thing is that this word aglā is found in Jewish amulets and mystical texts and in medieval Christian, medieval runic text inscriptions alike. So one of the questions I will ask in this presentation, which basically follows the draft or the draft of an article I'm trying to work with. One of the questions is, what did really aglā mean? And the second question is, where did it come from? Did it come from Jewish alphabet-based magic? Did it come from the Hebrew aglā? So the way I found my way into this material is represented by this artifact. This is a tool that was found in the ruins of the medieval town of Tønsberg, I believe some 30-40 years ago, not far away from McDonald's. For those of you who are familiar with the urban Tønsberg, how Tønsberg is. Anyway, this is a tool, a spatula, and I found this piece in a very local historical journal, where a curator at the local historical museum presented this and other findings from the medieval town of Tønsberg. And by the way, more or less, she presented this tool and said, by the way, there's an inscription on it. The inscription reads aglā, and there's a cross before and after. And the traditional explanation of this inscription is that it comes from the Hebrew four Hebrew words, ātā gibor le'olam Adonai. You are eternally mighty, my Lord. Now, this happens to be the opening phrase of the second benediction of the ʿＡmîdâ. The ʿAmîdâ is the most important prayer in Jewish tradition. So this piece caught my attention, made me interested in this phenomena. Why is there a potential Hebrew magical or powerful word in a Norwegian or Scandinavian medieval runic text inscription? I as far as I know, there were no Jewish communities in Norway or Scandinavia at that time in the medieval High Middle Ages. And these Hebrew words, they are not part of the church liturgy, and I know for sure they are not part of the Bible. So why this word? And is the word aglā:h in runic the same word as the Hebrew, as we will now soon see, is found in Jewish amulets, etc., etc. So the article of mine is made up of 4 sections. In the first section, I give examples of how runic inscriptions from Scandinavia used aglā:h. I try to discuss in what context these inscriptions or this word was used. And in the second section, I try to discuss the function and meaning of the Hebrew aglā:h as it is found in Jewish tradition. And I will see, I will show you that it is found in amulets, and we can find some traces of it in esoteric mystical literature. The third section discusses these 2 variants of the word. And I ask, what is the relationship between the runic aglā:h and the Hebrew aglā:h? Do they represent the same word, the same powerful word? And the way I conclude, as of today at least, yes, they do probably. So in the fourth section of the planned paper or article, I try to discuss, or at least I speculate on how a Jewish magical word migrated to the newly christened Scandinavia in the High Middle Ages. So I discuss, did it come from the East, from contact with Jews in, say, in the CASR Empire to the east of the Black Sea? Or did it come from somewhere in the West? Did the word migrate to Scandinavia via a Western route? So I think I also should flesh out, at least give you some illustrated examples of aglā:h in a Scandinavian context. On the screen, you will see a church bell from Västgötaland in Sweden, Saleby. This church bell has a runic inscription on it, and I simply read an English translation here. Which says, quote, "When I," that is the church bell, "was completed, then there were 1,220 winters and 8 from the birth of God. Ave Maria, gratia plena, Dionysus sit benedictus." And I think I forgot aglā:h in between there, between birth of God and Ave Maria. So this is a nice example of how this enigmatic word occurs. In this case, I kind of blessing, perhaps. Anyway, another example, I will skip this one and I will move to this one. This is a stick, a rune stick that was found at the Bryggen, at Bryggen in Bergen, some 50, 60, 70 years ago after the big fire there. The rune stick, I'm not sure exactly what the purpose of the stick was. Was it a tool or was it an amulet? But maybe I should have read more about that. Anyway, it has inscriptions on it on at least 3 out of 4 sides. And in in the inscription, we can read, again, following the Hebrew, the English translation, "aglā:h, God, Sator, Arepo, Raphael, Gabriel, Michael, Jesus Christ, Mary, protect me." And the last, I think, example is a crucifix from Sola, outside of Stavanger. Here, there's a crucifix. The runic text is, in fact, a Latin text, but written in with the runes. And we find liturgical formulations here. We find what I would call messianic titles in this crucifix, names of evangelists, etc., etc. And we find at the very center of the inscription AGLA, Alpha and Omega. This crucifix was buried in a older burial mound. So I will skip this one and I will move on. Some words about AGLA in Jewish tradition. So again, the standard explanation of AGLA in runic material is that it comes from Jewish tradition, and that it comes from these 4 words that I quoted. In Jewish tradition, we can find the word AGLA found in different contexts. We can find it occasionally in amulets, more seldom in mystic and esoteric literature. And in one instance, we can also find it in the tradition of King Solomon's magical powers, that is attested in the so-called Testament of Solomon. There is a chronological problem. I will not elaborate on that in this presentation, but none of these sources are, to my knowledge at least, earlier than the runic material. These are slightly later and sometimes also much later than the runic material, but nevertheless. Yeah, I still have some more minutes. Yeah, here we can find an example of an amulet. To my knowledge, it's not very old. It's earlier than 1948 for sure, but it is not necessarily many hundred years old. It's from Kurdistan, and it's an amulet for health. Refer the second last line, and typically it has many names on it, many magical and mystical names. Many of these names, San, Vai, Seman, Guluf, Huts, etc., etc., they can be found in a medieval text called, I forgot the title, but it was written by a rabbi called Eliezer of Worms. He made an amulets handmaker's book, sometimes in the 12th century. And this book was very much about many names of God. And these names are found also in this amulet that I show you. And we can find that the last word, again, found in line 12, is AGLA, in the context of an amulet for health. Yeah, and I don't think I have very much more time, but just a couple of minutes on this. In Jewish tradition, there are 2, perhaps 3 explanations given for the Hebrew AGLA. The first explanation is that it comes from the second benediction of the ʿＡmidâ, as I quoted earlier. This explanation is also attested in, how should I put it, in authentic Jewish texts from the Middle Ages. But there is also an explanation that it is the name of one of the feet of Yahweh's throne. That is also found in a text, in a Hechalotic text called the Throne Midrash. Yeah, I think this should be more or less what I have time to present today. I would like to show you this very last slide. As I mentioned, the last section of my planned article is a discussion, perhaps more or less a speculation about how a Jewish Hebrew magical word or powerful word, how it made its way to Scandinavia. And I have tried to visualize the two routes, the eastern route and the western route on this map. The western map, just a few, the western route, sorry, there were Jewish communities in the Middle Ages who settled in the Rhine Valley in the Middle Ages, the early Middle Ages. So that could be a source. Or we also know for sure that there were Christian learned centers, centers of Christian Hebraism at monasteries here and there in England, in Lincoln, and in outside Paris, Saint Victor Abbey, an Augustinian monastery, I think. And there were also a Jewish community in Rouen, where, by the way, St. Olaf was baptized, just to show you the travel routes in the early Middle Ages. Yeah, I think I should stop there before leaving. Boy stops me.